Alright, so this is going to be a video response to Moodz616. Awesome dude, makes really good videos. This is going to be to his contest. It's a contest entry. Basically your top 20 horror films, and this wasn't a really easy thing to do. But basically what I did was I picked the films that got me into horror, the films that scared me the most, and the films that I can watch over and over again without getting tired. Also, I tried to keep a lot of sequels and multiple films from the same franchise. I tried to keep that to a minimum. But anyway, this list is also not set in stone. It will change. Even my top 10 change all the time. But anyway, I guess we'll start with number 20, and it is It. It's based off of a Stephen King book. I believe it was a mini series on TV, and it scared me quite a bit when I was a kid. You know, I think it still holds up. I showed it to my cousin and my little sister. I don't know, a month or two ago, and they found it pretty scary. So it definitely still holds up with the scare factor. Next up is number 19, and it is House. I don't know, this movie always just made me happy to watch. This is kind of a movie that I like to watch when I'm in a bad mood or something. It usually brings me up a bit. I don't know, I've always just really liked House. I don't know why. Nothing about it is too great, but it always just, it was one I always gravitated to. So yeah, House, pretty awesome. Even House 2 ain't bad. I like House 2 too. Next up is number 18, and it is Gremlins. Gremlins I watch pretty much every Christmas. You know, I've loved this movie when I was a kid. You know, the puppets and the gremlins and stuff, they look really good. They still hold up way better than CGI. You know, this movie is just awesome, and the special effects and stuff are really good. Next up is number 17, and it is The Devil's Rejects. This one I seen back in when it came out. I think it was in '05, and I seen this in a drive-in, and it was pretty shocking back then. I was kind of younger, you know, and it was probably the most shocking film I'd seen at that time, and it really really was a unique experience. But you know, I think this is Rob Zombie's best film for sure. I really love The Devil's Rejects. It's just pretty crazy, and Bill Moseley's awesome. Next up is number 16, and it is Trick or Treat. This one is really awesome. It has a really realistic Halloween atmosphere type thing. It really feels like, you know, if you watch this during Halloween, it brings back memories to, you know, when you was a kid, out in the neighborhood at night and stuff during Halloween. Just really fun. This one I watch every Halloween now. I used to watch Halloween, you know, Michael Myers and stuff every Halloween, but this one kind of took over its spot. I think that this one feels more like a Halloween movie to me. And plus anthologies I really like. Trick or Treat's really awesome. Next up, number 15, and it is Phantasm 2. I like this one a little bit more than the original, and I don't know, the tall man always creeped me out a lot when I was a kid, so I figured I'd throw it on the list. I watched this one, you know, I really dig this one. Reggie's like pretty damn awesome. I don't know, I've always liked his character, you know, the big ass shotgun and stuff. But yeah, I watched this on Monster Vision for the first time way back in the day, and you know, I liked it ever since. Next up is number 14, and it is Pet Sematary. This movie, for the Zelda scene alone, deserves to be on the list. It's the only, from what I can remember, it's the only film to ever give me a nightmare, and it was from the Zelda scene. And it's probably the scariest, to date, probably the scariest thing that I've ever seen. You know, back then, I was really young when I watched this, and you know, it's always stuck with me as being really creepy. Plus the actual movie is pretty decent too, not just that scene. But yeah. All right, sorry about that. I got interrupted. I'm probably gonna have to cut that out. But moving on with number 13, we have Pumpkinhead. Um, this one to me is just one word to describe it would be atmosphere. Um, Amazing atmosphere in this movie. Amazing with the fog and the lighting, and it's just really well made in that aspect. The creature Pumpkinhead himself looks really good. Um, you know, the storyline is really great. You know, kind of sad in a way. Um, the witch lady, the old lady, she was really creepy when I first seen this. I might even say that she was creepier than Pumpkinhead himself. But this movie's a great movie. The sequels ain't that good, but you know, the original's awesome. Next up is Dawn of the Dead, coming in at number 12. This one is a great zombie movie. I know a lot of people would put this as in their top 5 movies of all time, probably number 1 for zombies. Um, you know, to me, I guess the hype let me start from here, I guess. I watched this movie a couple years ago for the first time, and there was a lot of hype behind it. Everybody I ever talked to would always tell me, like, you never seen Dawn of the Dead? It's like one of the greatest zombie movies of all time. It's like my favorite movie. It had a lot of hype behind it for me, and I kind of went in with unrealistic expectations, um, and it hurt it a little bit. You know, it's still an amazing movie, though. Like, I'm not really knocking it or anything. It's just, I think I would have loved it a lot more if I didn't go in with that hype. And I try to stay away from hype in movies because of this reason exactly. I hate getting overhyped. So usually I'm pretty good at staying away from it, but this was just really hard to avoid. I probably should have seen it earlier. um, Next up is number 11, and it is Day of the Dead. This one, Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead to me are just both amazing zombie movies. I'd probably have to say I like Day of the Dead a little bit better, simply because I seen it first, and it was really my first. I think it was one of the first zombie movies that I seen, with the slow zombies and stuff. And the special effects in it are, you know, great. Great gory scenes. The claustrophobic feeling of being in the underground is really, you know, you can really feel it, and it's just a great zombie movie. Breaking into the top 10, we have at number 10 we have Halloween, John Carpenter's Halloween. Um, this one to me is you know, a classic. It you know, pretty much started the slasher genre, which is probably my favorite genre, subgenre, and you know, this one should probably be lower on my list. Most people would think that. Um, I know a lot of people would consider this their favorite horror movie of all time, and you know, at least top 5. But to me, this wasn't one that really got me into horror. I seen this much later. I didn't see it when I was growing up. I seen all the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Streets, and never really sat down and watched Halloween. I seen bits and pieces of it when I was a kid, but I never really, you know, watched the whole movie until much later, and I really realized, like, you know, how great it was. Um, Next up is number 9, and it is The Lost Boys. This one is an awesome vampire movie, my favorite vampire movie. I'm not huge into vampires, but this one is amazing. The soundtrack is great. I really always liked when I was a kid the like almost like the gang like group of vampires, the teenagers. It really felt really cool. Kiefer Sutherland is an awesome villain. You know, the visuals in this movie are great. You know, the Corey Haim and Corey Feldman are awesome. Just a really fun, awesome vampire movie. You know, this is what everybody should base their vampire movies off of. Um, Coming in at number 7, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and this one is so much different than the original, but um, in its own way, I really like it. It's kind of one of them films. I know a lot of people don't really like it. I think you have to just it's something that you just have to get. You know, it's um, I think the people that are fans of it like really understand what it was going for, and it's so outrageous, and Chop Top is just out of control. Um, which Chop Top's one of my favorite horror villains of all time. I love in the movie how they carry around the hitchhiker's dead body. There's just so much things that I like about this movie. The dark humor is just awesome. Um, just one of my all-time favorites ever since I first seen it. I always go back to this one, and it's just so fun. And it honestly does have a few creepy moments too. When I was a kid, when you first see Chop Top, that was really scary. Um, but anyway, moving on to number 6, we have Scream. Now, Scream is probably one of the biggest movies that influenced me into horror. To me, it was the first horror movie that was new, that was really good in my opinion. You know, I seen all the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Streets, um, you know, before it, but they were always, you know, the previous generation's movies. But this was my first big movie that came out in my generation, at least that I can remember. I remember being like 6 years old watching this, and it really did just change. It really took over the entire world almost. At least my world being a kid. I mean, everybody was like calling like, "What's your favorite scary movie?" And I remember in school during the Halloween days that we'd be in school. I remember like 70% of everybody was wearing a Ghostface costume. So yeah, I seen Scream 2 and Scream 3 in the drive-in, and then just recently, you know, when it came out, I seen Scream 4 in the theater. I've always been a big fan of the Scream series just because it really felt like it was my generation's first, um, you know, big horror franchise. Um, Next up, coming in at number 5, we have Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. You know, this one, Friday the 13th, is probably one of the main films that got me into horror. I think the first one I seen was Part 7, but in my opinion, Part 4 is probably the best out of all of them. Um, you know, it's just an amazing slasher. Jason was so badass when I was a kid, and you know, I love the Friday the 13th series. I remember watching them all the time, renting them. That's probably the number one movies I would rent when I was a kid, was the Friday the 13th. Um, yeah, so that really you know, is one of the movies that got me into horror. Next up, coming in at number 4, we have Nightmare on Elm Street, and this one is, you know, my favorite Elm Street movie. You know, it's just, I can watch it over and over again and never get tired of this movie. Um, you know, the whole hospital thing. I really like the, you know, where it was, the movie was set in the hospital. I love the Dream Warriors aspect where, you know, they all go into the dream and they have their own powers. The dream sequences are awesome. You know, this is just my favorite Elm Street film. You know, before Freddy was too over the top, but he still had a very unique personality. So, you know, and I love the characters in this movie. Kincaid being my favorite. Um, just an awesome movie. Um, Next up is number 3, and it is John Carpenter's The Thing. And this movie to me is one of the best horror movies ever. It's uh, the the setting in the Arctic type thing. You know, really cold. You can almost feel the cold when I first seen this. It was the paranoia and the isolation. Just that's probably what I love so much about it, is the paranoia. I mean, not knowing who was the thing and stuff. It was really interesting idea, and you know, I always loved this movie. The acting is awesome. The special effects are great. The you know, it's just an amazing movie. Um, Now my top two, and coming in at number two is Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. This movie to me is just a masterpiece. I mean, freaking, it's just the acting by Anthony Perkins is just awesome to me. You know, very believable. The story itself is just an awesome story. The you know, as you know, filmmaking goes, it's very, you know, very, very good. Alfred Hitchcock really, you know, nailed this. Um, I didn't, when I first seen it, I didn't know about the ending, so it was really shocking. Um, you know, this movie just it's just one of my favorite movies. I also really like all the sequels. You know, I think that this is one of the best franchises for sequels. I think that it you know, the sequels are all pretty solid. Um, and last but not least is my favorite horror film of all time, and it is Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie to me was one that really influenced me um, to get into horror. I remember renting it with Phantasm and watching Phantasm and Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the same night. And you know, the scene where the hitchhiker gets in the van, I remember just being so uncomfortable and just so terrifying when I was a kid. This movie was just um, really terrifying to me. I remember shutting it off and then turning it back on and shutting it off and turning it back on because I was, you know, scared to watch it, but I kept wanting to see what would happen next. Um, just just an amazing movie, and it's definitely my favorite horror film. Um, this is probably a pretty long video, so you know, I'm gonna end it now. But Moodz616 is an awesome dude. He got a great taste in hip hop, and if you like that, definitely if you're not already subscribed to him, you know, check him out. Um, you know, really interesting guy, and he makes good videos. And he's holding a pretty awesome contest. So that's about it. Thanks for watching, and I'm out.